Welcome to episode 28 of the Service Course Report. My name is Ed Philbrick. I'm joined by Kurt Stockton and Darren Stockton, and today we have a special guest, Zap.
Not that special.
Very special. Our first guest number 1.
Special.
Oh, that's so?
Yeah, episode number 28. So you're breaking it in.
Yeah.
Couldn't get anybody better.
Yeah. Up here at Sea Otter.
Right.
You never know who you might find.
So
In
today
Dave's built out sprinter.
That's right.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
shifted to the shifted studios.
So not only are you our first guest, but you're the first guest in the Sprinter pod studio.
Yeah.
Pod
Yeah,
studio. Yeah.
It only gets better from here.
Cheers.
I hope. All right.
So today is Saturday at Sea Otter. It's quite the day. We have the Brompton World Championships. We have the Fuego XL.
Straight out of Brompton.
Yeah. And Zap, welcome and thank you for being our first guest.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Can you give us the cliff notes of your story and who you are?
Zap. Let's see. Longtime journalist. I always say a small J journalist because there's real people doing real journalism that is far more complicated and hard to do than anything I've ever had to do with bicycles and motorcycles. But I got started in 1986 at Mountain Bike Action, Motocross Action. Took mountain bike action to heights untoward never conceived of, and then went to another magazine, a mountain bike magazine, in '93. Was there for 10 years. Then got clipped there when I got in a fight with the boss man about how the magazine should be run and what we should be talking about.
Nice.
And and then I went to Trek, brand manager of Trek, for about 4 years in Wisconsin, and then. My ship came back in when High Tour called me and said, hey, we need another editor again. Came back out to do motocross action and mountain bike action again, and then they decided to start road bike action. I became the editor of road bike action in like 2008 and then 2009ish, and then went there all the way through gravel bikes, disc brakes, everything sweet. And then I worked at KTM the last couple of years, few years. And now I'm recreating myself in a world that doesn't really put much emphasis on anything that's not AI. So there we are. And still here at the Sea Otter for all the old guys are like, oh yeah, well I've been here 36 times. Oh yeah, well my first time was, it's like the gut checking for how many Sea Otters you've been to.
Yeah.
And it's a glorious weekend, and it's Sea Otter when it's good is fabulous, and I think it's been fabulous this week.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. As weather-wise, fabulous-wise, I think it's right up there.
Yeah.
Top 10%.
My job is to help feed these guys to the algorithm. So I'm going to feed you to the algorithm, and we're going to play with AI today. So when people search, they can watch about you. Yeah. Where are you from originally?
Born and raised in Hollywood on the Hollywood Hills, up Beechwood Canyon. And just for real historical notes, we had a Hollywood sign up there, and back in the day, started like in 1969, 70, 79, we had no less than 4 authentic lap motocross tracks, all within earshot of the Hollywood sign.
Oh, really?
Super rad. Pitching off.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we had one of the GP track, as we call it, was over by Lake Hollywood.
Yeah.
And we just ride right out of our house, and it was bitching.
I think that's something that all of us in the studio here share, is that we all grew up near motocross tracks. I was just looking on YouTube, and I saw a black and white track where I ride my mountain bike every day.
Yeah.
It was filmed in black and white, And in Carpinteria, where we're all from, there's quite the
Thunderbolt.
And
Top of the pond. I rode my old YZ125 with a Bob Hurricane Hand, a lightning bolt seat on there, out at the same place that I rip my gravel bike currently.
Yeah.
And the Santa Barbara Starters MC had a track, Mulaney's, out in Goleta, out by it's by the north end of the airport, by the university. And so,
And most importantly, in case no one knows, these two knuckleheads, bicycles national champions, blah, blah, blah. Their mom, Cherry Stockton, the best Stockton of the whole damn family, original test rider for Motocross Action magazine. If you go back in the back issues from like 76, 77, 70, you'll see pictures of their mom, Cherry, like on a Steve's Bull Taco jersey or a Motocross Action jersey. She was the man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Always a plug for your mom.
Yeah.
It's cool that you share that. Yeah. When you go to the motocross race with Cherry, Roger DeCoster shakes her hand.
Yeah.
And that, Roger doesn't talk with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So early influences, art, culture, sports. What were your early influences?
Mert Lawwell and On Any Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah.
And just a little bit before that, Peter Fonner, Dennis Hopper, and Easy Rider, but I mean, and then from there, but I mean, I've been just an acolyte of Mert once I walk, so it's such a shared story within our generation of kids who, like in 1971, went into a theater and then big screen, and then honestly, I get emotional because like the completion of a life and a dream that I could ever think possible, but you guys, we all know Mert Lowell now, and I've been in Mert's house in Tiburon, where he took an ounce off that cam follower, in the garage, and that grinder's still there, and so just the short version, the best version of my life is it's a charmed life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's awesome, mentor or influencer there. How have you come to your continued love of two-wheel vehicles? Like, what has been your evolution of your love of two-wheel vehicles? Like, did you start on a skateboard? Did you start on a BMX bike?
I mean, up in the Hollywood Hills, skateboard. We used to skateboard down from, up all the way down. We'd skateboard all the way to Lacan Junior High, but that was pretty sweet. And then Schwinn Stingrays, of course, BMX. I raced BMX, and BMX was back for me. It was like Randall Ranch and Saddleback, and like, most of the kids today talk about BMX like in the 80s, but there was this really vibrant BMX scene in California, especially in the 70s.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, just a little bit of suspension here and there, but just, it was mostly downhill course, a lot of downhill courses, So that was that. But it just, from there, I mean, again, another one, besides Mert, is just Roger DeCoster. He means the world to me. And like so many kids, I mean, it was just like whatever he did. Like, I look at the magazines and still photos, and the way we would look and dress, or what if we heard anything. He only eats strawberry yogurt between what? Okay, mom, guys, strawberry yogurt, right? Whatever. And then in the whole journalism thing, I mean, when I was in college, UC Santa Cruz, I started my own little fanzine, which was all completely political. It was like staple it together like 4 or 5 times a year, but every time I was in Santa Cruz, I would literally go to the Safeway, buy a Motocross Action, and I'd just read through the whole thing, and then I'd handwrite a letter to Jody Weisel, the editor, and just like, kind of like not complaining, but critiquing the magazine. Mm-hmm. And then in 1986, again, I went to law school for a year and just failed miserably and got kicked out.
Nice.
And, I was at just a dusty dirt track at Paris Raceway, and I'm sitting there between races, and I just went out to watch a friend of my race, and then tap, tap, tap on the shoulder, and it was Jody. And I had known Jody from racing motocross locally, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come and get a job at Motocross Action?" And we just started this thing called Mountain Bike Action. And, it was like the party of the clouds, and, it was, Trump's golden escalator going in reverse up, and I was just like, ascended to the clouds. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, it's never worked a day in my life, and worked damn hard to be the best I could be and bring the stories to the people. Like I said, I always just called myself Mexican conduit. It's like whether I'm in Japan at the Shimano factory or at Cactus Cup or anywhere, I'm just so privileged to be among guys like these guys, or racers, or at factories, or anything. Mm-hmm. And back then, obviously before the website and everything, it's just like the magazines were it. Yeah. And so again, I just consider myself conduit, and where I would just be able to be somewhere, tell a story, and through the magazine, and I mean, even here, people are telling me, God, I used to read you, when I was in England, when I was in Costa Rica, and then the magazine would come, and it was such a vital time for journalism and information.
Yeah, I ran a bike shop in Summerlin, Santa Barbara area from 88 to 91. You would drive my inventory. You were an early influencer. You were the first influencer in cycling, in my opinion. You would drive IRC tires, smokes, sales, whatever sales, bar end, whatever Tomac was up to, and you were taking cool photos of. Yeah. You would dictate my inventory and my pursuits.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing how, Mountain Bike Action was such an influential force, and it's not like we tried, we just doing what we did,
Yeah.
And it was the sport. The sport was so dynamic, and again, you guys know it. We saw, we lived it, where it's like, one day you're just like, here's a mountain bike, and like the very next weekend at another urban national, you're like, wow, look what's like, the day Rock Shock showed up, and then it was just this, and then when rear suspension came into it, oh, man, it was like, everything from that raunchy Trek 8000, that I roasted, famously back in the day, and then to greater designs, and just but Robert Reisinger with a San Andreas, or the mountain fork he had, the Mountain Concepts fork he had, the disc brake, inverted fork. That was he came into our office, I think, at mountain bike like in 90 or 91. I mean, so early.
Yeah.
No one was even thinking about inverted forks, let alone disc brakes. So it was just so easy to do it, and that's just quickly, that's what got me hired by Bicycling / Mountain Bike Magazine, because those guys are sitting back in PA with their thumbs up, just like, gee, we don't know what's going on out there. You know? And we had like 5 mountain bike magazines specifically, like 4 of them just out of Southern California. I mean, that's how crazy it was. It was so much to cover, so much going on.
Yeah,
and it was just a fabulous time.
Well, I think of you and Grant Peterson as keeping the industry on track, getting rid of BioPace, getting rid of the U-brake underneath
that was a good one.
This chainstay, rapid fire shifting that wasn't quite working.
Yeah.
You guys helped push the industry to perfection or forward.
Yeah. And then, also part of that was also keeping the bad, it's like also keeping bad stuff out. I remember famously one of the ad guys, I tested this bike. It was called a Hawk. It's an aluminum bike, square tube, really rough, and it had a telescopic, like a front end, like a handlebar front end. But he put on this like scrap metal, sheet metal cut out like a hinge on, like a door hinge. So, and the thing was, so it was like this, so it would compress here, but here were these totally sharp edges. Anyways, we like practically lacerated our knees on this thing,
Yeah.
And the test came out, and we just kind of panned the bike, and again, we didn't take any joy or effort in doing that, but that was the one thing Jody told me. It's like the advertisers are not your customer, the reader is.
Yeah.
And that was like a rule, bar none, and that guy called up the guy who was making that bike, just reamed out the ad guy, and then Metzger, he comes to me and goes, livelihoods are at stake. And I was like, Rob, the point is, livelihoods are at stake. I'm concerned about the person who buys the bike if we say it's all great and they go out and die on it. That's the livelihood I'm concerned about, not the guy's bank account. I mean, it's not like we're out to not trying to hurt anybody's bank account.
Yeah.
But livelihoods are at stake, and he's concerned about the advertising guy, and I'm concerned about the reader, who has to buy that stuff. And there was some really bad stuff back then. I mean, especially the lights, like Fast Feather, I think was the name of the company. Of these, everybody, Bontrager's famous axiom, light, fast, or cheap. Choose two. No, light, strong, or cheap. Choose two. And these guys, everybody was just like, if you had like access to a CNC machine and a dunk tank with a purple color. And this Fast Feather stuff, it's just like shearing off these seat posts, And I remember stories of guys just like, that stuff counts, and you can't just like say good things about it, And just I remember, when we would get in trouble with people saying like, you can't say stuff like that, and we're like, and I'd always say like to the guys who own these bike companies getting mad at us, I'm like, look, if you read Consumer Reports and they said nothing but glowing things, and you bought a refrigerator that's because they said it was great, and you bought it and found out it sucked. What would you think then about honest and and people are always saying you're negative. I'm like, we're not negative, we're critical, and that's what we should be. Just like every fucking newspaper today should be. They aren't, but they should be. That's the point of the free press, and something that's going to be objective and trying to be there for the people that are reading the magazine or the newspaper.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I have great respect for your courage and your brevity. So, thank you for being so strong. I think you've helped set the tone for this industry and keep it on track, because it could have gone off track a little bit, and it has, and it will.
32-inch wheels. Sorry.
So
He just said 32-inch wheels.
I want to add in real quick, and then we can talk about that. So I had a brief writing career with Peterson Publishing about a year and a half when I was trying to make it out of road into mountain biking, and their policy on reviews was, if it came out really bad, they would basically decide whether they just wanted to put it out or not. I think they would give the company, like, they got like a, can't remember what brand, like a Raleigh or something one time, and the bike was so bad that like we didn't even want to review it. But they would give them the option, hey, do you want to send us another bike and try and fix it or not?
Bicycling was the same way.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you guys got it all wrong. It's just, it's just, they're so fearful, and I mean, fuck, whatever, it's business, but
the almighty ad dollar, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was,
yeah.
I mean, I remember those magazines. I remember watching in the heyday of Julie Furtado and Tomac, and I used to get done, train or do whatever, and I would go through and count how many Tomac ads there were versus how many Furtado ads. Full page, then half page and quarter page, and add them up, and it was like, it was just the two of them and the products they used. I mean, those magazines used to be that thick because there was so much advertising, right? And I mean, and I guess you understand if you're the bean counter, or you're the bean counter and you work for the boss, like it's there. But to your point, you're doing a disservice. Yeah. If you're not.
I mean, ultimately, it's who you're doing the service for, right?
Right.
And so, like, again, at Rodeo, they say, like, if you test something and you don't like it, it's bad. Just send the bike back. You know? And I'm like, what? But I was completely befuddled. I'm like, what is that accomplishing? You know, it's just like a fucking hand job, you know.
Yeah. That's good. Integrity. Well, I like, so maybe this is a chance for me to ask one. Where did you get your feistiness, fight backness, countercultureness, like, which I love and respect because so many people just phone it in. Like, where did you get that little bit of that punk vibe that,
well,
you know?
It literally, I mean, when you ask the question, I'm thinking like somewhere between, like, you know, Joe Biafra, Joe Strummer, and HR and the Bad Brains, you know, because I went through a whole punk rock phase, you know, and it was when I was actually before I went to Santa Cruz and during, that's a whole bitching story too about those like hippies in Santa Cruz, you know. And I took one class called Deviance and Conformity, right? And I walked into class. Literally, I just had double knee surgery and I walked into class this day on Deviance and Conformity on crutches, and I had this stinking mohawk, and I called it my bohawk because I had braided it like Bo Derek. And I walk into class late because I'm on crutches, right? You know, so it took me time because at UC Santa Cruz, all the campuses, you have to take a bus. Anyways, so I'm kind of like hobbling along, my backpack on and everything. And I kind of open the door slowly, you know, and like, you know, it's a classic thing, like, you know, the door opens late in class and like, you know, all the heads turn. And here I am sitting here with this ridiculous haircut and on crutches and both knees just still ace bandages, you know, eh? And I'm just like standing there, and it's kind of like, and like there's like this still in the whole room, nothing happening. And then finally the teacher says, maybe someone can get up and give him a seat, you know? And it was just like, that was like classic, you know? And then I had this shirt on, and it was taken from, you know, in the Beatles, the White Album, they each had a poster of each of the Beatles, you know? And I was like, if you listen to Fear, which is Lee Ving band, it was just godlike to us, and it was this whole contrarian and, you know, just being, you know, pains in the asses, you know. And I made a poster which my friend made into a T-shirt. It was a picture of John Lennon. This is way before he was killed, right? 1 down, 3 to go is what I put down here, you know. And that didn't go over well with the hippies in Santa Cruz, you know. So I wasn't on anyone's, you know, like, you know, good list, but it was just so funny. Like, sorry, it's complete.
No,
but the thing is, like, so punk rock definitely helped me think about life in a contrarian way, and then certainly like reading The Nation early on, you know, and like Alexander Coburn, with, you know, writers like that, and then I'll say, you know, Jody Weisel, the editor of Motocross Action, had already had like a sort of his own, you know, he had, I can't really speak to what his motives were, but I mean, again, it was the reader, And Jody had already then had a little bit of a renown in the motorcycle industry for being kind of snarky, you know. And it's just, it's my character, I guess, somewhat, but it's just like, you know, I mean, and, you know, again, like Tim Blumenthal, God rest his soul, you know, he just passed. And Tim Blumenthal, he's the complete anti-me, right? I mean, we're like two completely different things, you know, but, you know, that dude's a solid journalist, you know, but we just go about it different ways. And I'm not saying that Tim was anything like what we're, you know, sort of dismissing in terms of selling out or whatever you want to say, but just in terms of character, we were just two different people doing the same thing. And I mean, you know, it's just, I guess, punk, it was punk rock, though. You know, rock. You know, I mean, and that's a good value in my life. Yeah.
Well, we just want you to feel welcome and feel like it's okay to share your passion and your fight, because that's who you are, and we respect that. So
before you go on, I had a question. We were talking about, and you mentioned BMX in the 70s. Yeah. Because DS and I both raced BMX. You know, we grew up at the track, and before we got motorcycles, right? Yeah. You had a Schwinn that you modified and did that. You remember a full suspension BMX bike that Yamaha did?
That thing was awesome.
No, it wasn't.
Well, I mean, it was a pig. It was
it was. But I wonder, right? So that was in the 70s, for sure. Yeah. And why dual suspension bikes took so long to come around from mountain bikes? Was it? I mean, that thing was big. I mean, someone just like had some extra time or was given a project or whatever, right? And they made that thing. I mean, I remember a friend of mine had
It was so hard to pedal.
It was terrible,
so
but it was like that was like the first dual suspension off-road pedal bike. Really,
literally the first bike I ever stole in my whole life was a Yamaha motorbike. It was over at Lake Hollywood, and we'd go through back and forth in my mom's car driving me, and I'd always notice this little Yamaha motorbike out in front of the house, like day or night, always out there. I'm like, that's crazy. So I hiked 2 hills over from our house, and it was like my big caper, and I stole your bike, whoever you are. And I, like in the middle of the night, and it was just like so janky, and I was just like so nervous. I gave it to my friend Paul Leary, just like just take it, because I got too nervous about having stolen property, in case. But that thing was a roach, right? Everything just bent right away. Kawasaki had the same thing with David Clinton. We used to race the Kawasaki factory bike, and so did Tinker Juarez. And then, of course, there was the ad that had Bob Han and a YZ with next to some kid with the motorbike.
Right.
And then, they had the Yamaha the Gold Cup Series, which was a race series. They actually had indoor races that culminated in the championships in the Coliseum. And they had like wood berms, a wood water jump and everything. And I raced in it. Didn't qualify. My brother qualified for the Coliseum side to it. But yeah, it was. And then Wayne King, famously, Wayne King was pictured. Tom Lund was a big famous racer back then. And Wayne King was a guy out of Atwater. And he had a square tube bike with a monoshock and Motomags. Oh, yeah. And it was just, it was crazy, and the thing was super sturdy. And because Tom Lund was this high jumping guy, and they, so suspension, kind of like with Paris-Roubaix, the forks came and then, crickets.
Yeah.
Right. Because like in 93, 94, when like Bianchi, I have these photos of, the Bianchi full suspension road bikes. Like, they went typically Italian, right? So much, just so outlandish. Like motorcycle shocks and everything. And I was there with Rock Shocks in '93, but it was that big race between Duclos LaSalle and Ballerini, and it was like right at the finish. Rock Shocks won by this much. We're thinking like, God, can you imagine if a soft ride stem had beaten Rock? Where could the history have turned like by that point? But then next, one more year, I think after that was when the guy in the GT Schmill, I think it was Schmill,
Andre Schmill,
won with Rock Shocks, and then after that, crickets. And everybody realized, I guess double handlebar tape is good enough.
A little tape on your wrist like Sean Kelly to give you some
interesting
support.
So you said the first bike you stole was the Yamaha bike. Had you stolen more than one bike?
Yeah, 2. Because then 3 houses up from my parents' house, there was a Schwinn. Was it a town? No, Schwinn Latour, I think it was.
Yeah,
the Latour.
I kite that thing. Same thing. It was just like they left that in the garage day in and day out, And,
almost inviting it.
Yeah, I can heard asking someone to steal it.
Yeah. All right.
So, anyways.
What do you love about bikes? Where's your passion come from for bicycles?
Just real quickly, it's a question I've asked so many people, like from Ernesto Colago to just 2 days ago, Keith Bontrager, because I'm so fascinated by it and what it's done for my life and how it makes me feel and what I see most likely just standing there and these people of all shapes and sizes, colors, creeds, religions, whatever. From Wayne Stegna to, some, portly kid on a BMX bike. They find the same thing,
Yeah.
And so I've asked, it's been part of an interview I've done for so many years for so many people. It's like, what is it about the bicycle? I'm still trying to find that answer. More often than not, though, it's one word comes up is freedom. Mm-hmm. And I've taken that. It's just so clear, and I always tell people, it's like, for me, I've always called wind in the face.
Yeah.
Nothing beats wind in the face, And then, if you get on any, as kids know, just wheeling through a mud hole, you're just like, fucking, I am on top of the world,
Yeah.
So.
And then the first time you drop it before you get all the way through the mud hole, then you're like, I got to work on my wheelies. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You talk about that freedom because that's, I remember someone asking about what was it like in the early days of mountain bike, and I said it really reminded me of being a kid the first time you took your BMX bike and actually rode somewhere.
Yeah.
You didn't just go to the track or do a round, but it was like that sense of freedom. Like all of a sudden that leash or that distance from your safe little area around home or your neighborhood, it increased, and it was like, and Darren and I talk about that too.
Sorry.
Technology. Yeah. And it is. And I know personally, I still feel that way today. Sometimes it's like, Yeah, just to get out and be out there and
Yeah.
Well, it detethers you from needing a ride from your parents too.
And that's been the second most frequently.
Yeah.
Is the same thing. That again, it's freedom, but it's just like all of a sudden you can go beyond your block and you can
Yeah.
go, you know, and it's just like I mean, we used to ride Stingrays from Hollywood to the Santa Monica Pier and back. Like the whole is we're like these mad. We had this thing called Twin Sliders with our BMX team, and when I think about that now, I'm like, my God, what was I thinking? I could barely do that in my car now. It's so far.
I know. We were talking about that too, riding over to the Sorensens on like our 20-inch BMX bike. Had to stand the whole way. The seat's too low, you know, coasting down hills, riding up, and just like adventuring, just taking off and going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had we went, when I was in 7th, 8th, and 9th, 7th where I met Ed at Santa Barbara Middle School, we all went there. It was a cycling-oriented school, but I would ride my, 10-speed down to school every day, and this one road APS that kind of goes above, like not the low, easiest way to get there. There's a super gnarly downhill called California Street. Mm-hmm. It's like really steep, so steep they didn't pave it, it was concrete. And it would hit like, there were a couple cross streets you could hit. And
and get air.
I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I bet you if I had a Torker, which I just wish, of all the bikes you wish you didn't sell, chrome, split top tube, yellow pads. And I'm like, I think if I ride my BMX bike like up APS and I can like go down and hit California Street and did it. So I did that and I was like going up APS in the morning. I'm like, oh dude, I'm going to be late. Didn't estimate all the time, but of course did it and like launched down there and got to school like 15 minutes late for first period. They're like, well, how come you were late? I'm like, well, and I told the whole story like, okay, like what are they going to say? I'm like, I went for the jump line. It just took me a little longer. Yeah. So.
I think there's something that goes on in our brain when we ride our bikes. I think you're going to fall over if your brain's not doing something different. And there's something that's magical about the art of balancing that's good for all of us, no matter what you're balancing on. Even these people on the one wheel, I'll give them that,
Right.
There's something going on that serotonin-wise with their brain, even on a one wheel, So skateboard the same probably. So
yeah. I mean, you just look at the diversification of people that are out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it runs the gamut, and I'm thinking, or like, when you do like not a gravel race, but even a gravel race, and you just like an Emporia, you see people who sign up for the 200, and you're just like,
oh, I know.
What are you thinking?
Yeah.
And I just love I love the courage, while just like I shudder at this kind of stupidity in a small way, but it's just like, fuck, right on, It's just
sometimes it helps not knowing enough to know you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, what do you ride today? What's your bike of choice today?
To me, the gravel bike is the ultimate of everything. It's like just a dual purpose bike. I just got on it, like in 2015 at the magazine. Neil Shirley, who was working for me at the time, we're just road bike, and all of a sudden it's like he's like this little inkling of this thing called gravel, and it was like Belgian waffle ride, and then the early he had like a Specialized was the first bike he had that was kind of gravel, and we all grew up with cyclocross, but suddenly there was some kind of this, it was kind of like, and just with each successive year when tires would go from 25 to 28 to 30s to 32s, and I was using them on my road bike, and it was like I loved it, and then officially as a gravel bike it's even better, but to me it's just like I'm old. I'm not never been a fucking tech guy, like I can't stand gadgets. And like today on a mountain bike, it's like, I got 6 inches of dropper in my post. Yeah, well, I got blah, blah, blah. Well, mine's electronic. Blah, well, I have, I got Bluetooth, blah, blah, blah. You look at the handlebars, just this company of cables and levers and shift, blah, blah, blah. So much crap on these bikes. And again, I'm not putting them down. They are what they are, and people, they do great things. But a gravel bike it's bringing it back, the simplicity of a bicycle. Yeah. And I can just, again, it's, you get to that end of the pavement, guess what? You keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just so bitchin'. And I was just laughing today with someone about, like, the thing is so rad about it. It's like, coming down a fire road, which has happened quite a few times with me up in Pasadena, coming around a fire road, and typically going too fast, and just into it. And all of a sudden you come on the road and it's like this succession, these like foot deep rain ruts. And it's like, oh shit, and you're just like, you unclip, and I'm kind of like sitting on the top tube. And I'm like, oh, and you just think you're going to die. And sometimes you do, eh? Yeah. But sometimes you don't. But that is like that rush of adrenaline, insulin, whatever it is. You're just thinking, and you know, because you're on a mountain bike, you know, 6 inches of travel and an 8-inch dropper post and yada, yada, yada. You're just like, no problem, dude. That's no moto, bro. You know, you don't even think about it. You know, on a gravel bike, you have to think about it.
Yeah, the ragged edge is stimulating.
Yeah.
The key is with age is adjusting where your ragged edge is, how raggedy it is, I guess, how much risk. Finding a good pocket where you can still go fast enough to get that joy, but then not so much that if it doesn't work out, you're in deep trouble. Maybe a little bit of trouble.
Well, just clue us in on your tires, though. What are your tires right now? You don't need to name a brand. Just like, are they wide or how wide are your tires?
Anything over 42 is ridiculous to me.
Okay.
And then it becomes something other than what I like to do. So, like a 32 slick and up to a 42 knobby, perfect.
That's your zone.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you talked about when Neil was working for you. So Neil was a very accomplished road racer.
Yes, he was.
Came to Road Bike Action, fully embraced the gravel revolution, for lack of a better word. And you were like, you encouraged him. You're like, go, go, go. And I remember you had like these diehard Road Bike Action fans. And this is only the letters to the editor that actually got published, but they were just like, this is a road bike magazine. But it was, and you were like, yeah, okay, but this is where it's going. And it seems like there was a little bit of, I don't know, forethought, or, you know, was it something, you know, you had maybe seen before in how mountain bikes came and evolved, or where did that come? Because you I recall you fully embraced it.
No, and I love printing those letters, you know, just because because again, the thing is like, you know, bicycling, it's like, don't print the bad letters, you know. And
how do you learn?
It's just like, you know, I mean, it's not, you know, like, it's not like I'm up on a stinking, you know, soapbox talking down to people, you know, it's like talking to them. And so it's like, and if they're going to subscribe to my magazine, it needs to be discussion, you know. But anyways, to your point, it was great. Because, you know, Neil got me into it, and, you know, because Neil was, you know, that's what we call him, real deal Neil, you know. I was like this, you know, motocross guy, like trying to be like a road guy, you know, and whereas Neil comes in, you know, I remember his first day of his interview, he's like, you know, with his suit and everything, like, Neil, first thing first, change your clothes, you know. It's like, and he's just, I mean, he's the real deal, so stinking pro over at Envy. I mean, look what he's doing at Envy now, you know. And it just sort of like, and I, you know, I was at that stage where I was kind of like, you know, the executive editor or whatever, and I had to like, I trusted his instincts, you know, more than anything, because I knew he was the real deal. And you know, it's just so funny because people are like thinking it's like, you know, this cabal, you know, you and the industry are just trying to like make us do this, that, and the other, you know. And it was the same thing. It's just, you know, few things bring me more joy than like seeing my daughter in the morning, but then just thinking back to all them knuckleheads who would say, you know, disc brakes will never happen. Disc brakes will never be in the Tour de France, you know. I was like, you know, chuckle, 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 you know. And it was just like, because that, like, and they thought, you know, people, it's like when I found out one point from Trek and Specialized, I can't remember what year it was, but I found out like the year before, they were doing away with bikes with stinking rim brakes. Like there would be no more. Well, I knew that, and that gave me I'm like, disc brakes are, I mean, if Trek and Specialized are not doing rim brake bikes, guess what, baby? You're buying disc brakes from now on. Whether you like it or not, or you think we're pushing a motorcycle ideology or something, it just does, you know, I mean, it was what it was. And we knew more things about going on than just the average reader, you know.
Of course, yeah.
And just simply, with disc brakes for me, it was a matter of like, guess what? If you can stop better, you're safer, and if you're safer, you can ride longer. And you can do all those things. It's just bringing more people into the sport. If you can brake better, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and think about, just aside from the braking argument, just think how much it's opened up frame design. All the big tires. I mean, you were tapped out at like a 30 on a you know, caliper brake, or they'd have the frame mounted ones. But and then it opens up all these other design parameters. It's funny, like you even look at road bikes now, in front of a road bike, you know, in the Tour or something, with, you know, everything hidden. Like you think about when there's just a big old brake caliper right in the front and a cable running up, and now they look all sleek. And that was like an argument at first. They're like, I don't like the way it looks. And it's like, after a while they will, you know, they'll get used to it and design around it. But I just remember the first year that we got, KS and I and Kathy were and Marcus were turning Max's trailer into an actual team, and Marcus is like, hey, there's this company. They used to make all the disc brakes for Harley. They're called Hayes. They want to, try them out and send them. And I put them on the bike, and we were like, dude, sign the contract.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe how well they worked. We ran the Maguras the year before, but they weren't quite there yet. And I just knew, and that's why I was just waiting forever until they came into road and gravel, and just such a difference, man.
Well, and also think about the whole carbon rims with rim brakes, right?
Yeah.
They never worked, right? They got better than they were, but they were still, then it was all these different brake pads and the blowing up and rim design and the shape, right? I think that they were able to make a safer rim because of disc brakes.
Yeah. You don't
Those
have
are
to
two
make them,
huge things.
strong enough to withstand the force of the brakes, but
Especially because that was like this mad rush that one couple of years when like everyone was making carbon rims, and there was there was so much shite out there. It's like next thing you know, it's like Ridge Runner carbon rims. I mean, throwing their names at it and companies that had nothing to do with it. They all ran in Taiwan, open mold. It was just the rim failures were insane because there was no engineering. It was just mad fashion for a carbon wheel.
Yeah.
Bean counters must have figured out that the revenue was worth the lawsuits.
Well, I think not, because I think a lot. Well, that was one sweet example of like feathering out the crap.
Yeah.
And have with just the good guys now. Whether it's Head or NB or Mavic or whoever. Zip. I mean, companies that are legitimate and actually do testing and
I feel like back in that era, like finding the right combination of rim brake pads for your carbon rim was like as much of dark magic as like the tire voodoo of today. You're like, I got the cork, but wait, which are you running on here? Oh no, I got the this and the that. And I remember I had a combination where I just couldn't find pads that wouldn't wear out. And I did a couple years of Santa Barbara 100, which has a lot of climbing in it. I did it like super domestique for this one client of mine, which was really fun. But I actually stuck a spare pair of brake inserts in my seat bag. I'm like, I don't know if I get out there and it's, just want to make sure everything's all good. Yeah. You never know.
Well, you kind of answered one of our questions, or a couple of them, by it doesn't sound like you deploy a lot of technology in your riding and study any metrics while you're riding, but I heard the answer in there already.
Yeah.
Just
I don't care about metrics. I mean, like seat height and, extension, to my handlebars is about like all I care about really.
Okay.
Do you like track your ride, say with like a GPS unit or anything? You just go ride?
Never. Heart rate monitors. It's like, and again, I don't mean to sound so stinking high and uppity, but it's just like, I just don't care,
Yeah.
So when I hear people talking about like, zones and it's all for a reason, I get it. But for me, just me personally, like when people say like, don't you ride with a heart rate monitor? It's like, trust me. When I'm like on climbing GMR and trying to go fast, there's a point where I'm like, good Lord, I need to stop. And I don't need a heart rate monitor beeping and something strapped on my chest and all blah, blah, blah. So anyways.
That's cool though. Everybody's got a different reason for riding. I know I went through a bit of a de-teching on all my handlebars. Well, my Garmin head unit that I had just, I'd had it for years. It fritzed out, and then I bought like a cheap Stages one during COVID on a deal, and I had that, and that one finally went out. And then I just like didn't have anything. Took the mounts off. Took that. It's pretty freeing actually.
Yeah.
Kind of like it. I do like looking at the metrics afterwards. Seeing, feet and checking out the map and all that. But I definitely just got more into riding in the moment, which is probably why I like dirt more.
Yeah.
Than pavement, because I feel like if you put a good ride together, just completing the ride checks all these boxes. Right. I'm not like saying, I got to go hard for this amount of time or do that.
The drag for me is like when I did the race formerly known as Dirty Kansas, now Unbound, and I had to use a computer because, and it's just like kind of pissed me off, because I'm like, really? Can't you guys get to fucking spray paint on the street, and just...
right.
You had to navigate yourself.
Yeah. It pissed me off. And now it's even... Now like, I've done other rides or races where it's like, it's all on your computer, And I remember I did one in Redlands. It's like, there's something other. It's like a bell race in Redlands and same thing, And it's like... And again, it's like, eventually I had to start using a cell phone, right? So there it is. But... It's just frustrating for for the old man on the porch, I'm just like, God, cranky kids, you and your electronics.
Who marks the best courses in Southern California is Victor Sheldon. He comes from motocross background.
Jet ski background.
Jet ski and he puts the flags where you're gonna turn. He's out there thinking about it. He doesn't use a computer either, by the way.
Really?
No, he uses Strava because it's important to him because he's so good at it. But he uses it, in his phone. But no computer on his head.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I love Slasher. Slasher's real deal.
Yeah, he marks a good course.
Yeah.
So you got any good KS or DS stories or stories about each one of these two characters?
Not that I would say now. No, they're on both sides of me. No, it's just
Still only one elbow each.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just, it was like back in that time. That was like, when a lot of road guys were coming to mountain bikes, and it was pretty fun. And, I mean, especially the fact that they got hooked up with Yeti of all things, because I was in pretty deep with Yeti at the time.
Deep with Parker or deep with Frank or
the whole company.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big, between Tomac and Yeti, that was any different time mountain bike action was referred to as Tomac bike action or Yeti bike action, depending on whose detractor was worse. And but same thing, up there in see me when they were, Chatsworth.
Yeah.
Agora.
Agora Hills at that warehouse. The early Yeti. It's like there was so much going on. And then when Parker came to us one day, and between him and Jody, they designed the ultimate bike, which is their elevated chainstay bike.
I had one.
And oh really? Yeah.
I had one.
I had one because of you.
Yeah. But I mean, that bike made. I mean, that was huge, right? And so, anyways. These guys show up with the Yeti thing, and it always struck me as like, because, I mean, they aren't sprite little guys, but at the same time, with their background, it was funny that they both focused, went to downhill racing more than cross-country racing, and it was super cool to me. I mean, I know, you ever a national champion like your brother?
No.
Yeah,
Came
so...
foot or two short one year, yeah.
So between, Stars and Stripes or Rainbow, to me, it's like, that's real deal, right? And
yeah.
when KS shows up, road racing, national champions racing mountain bikes now, that was sweet, and then, because back then, especially in something like the night crit at Cactus Cup, was just super bitching, and going up against, the mountain bike guys who are doing their best to be a road bike guy at night, on their slick tires, 26-inch wheels and flat bars.
Fat boy tires.
Yeah, Fat Boy Crit, right.
Yeah.
And road pedals. He had time road pedals on.
Yeah.
Well, they hadn't made that first time off-road pedal yet. So.
Just today, I got a phone. Some guy that wrote up today on the original Time 8-tack, and I'm like, oh my god, like I love you. And I took a photo. I'm gonna post it on my Instagram. Just because it's like, and I go, when that thing first came out, it probably still is, as far as I'm concerned, like the best pedal for off-road, for retention and everything, and mud clearance, everything. And no, wait. Yeah.
The first pedal, there was a pedal before the Attack. It was a single-sided. The first attempt on it. And I'm like blanking on the name. It had these little wings on the side. Yeah. But it had a proprietary cleat pattern because they didn't want to pay the licensing for Shimano for SPD. Yeah. And that was, and Tomac rode those.
Tomac and Bob Roll.
Yeah.
And they were in the ads for them too.
Yeah.
And the shoes were horrible. They had those zipper on the side.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that thing?
Oh, yeah.
The shoes were horrible. And even in later years, they would come out with these shoes. They were so bad. It's like, dude, stick to what you know. Let the Italians do the shoes.
Yeah.
But I still love the pedals. But it's so sweet. I saw it today. It was like that orange platform. And it was just so. It was like in brand new condition. It's super sweet.
I know. I wonder if I have a pair of those. I know I still have some of those cleats, brand new in the bag of that.
Because they look like Crank Brother cleats. I used to always get.
Oh, they do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Attack one, but that first pedal. Yeah, that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was. Yeah. So I was going to say that was an interesting one, right? Because that was like a total. Time was a total road company initially, right?
Yeah.
Roland Catin, he has those patents, and comes in and the first white road shoes in the peloton, right? We had white track shoes with the red stripes. And like, it was so brilliant because you could see a picture that was shot from a half a mile away and you could pick these shoes out. And it was like, he went all in and they were so French, but yet that guy, Roland, he was like, you can run into my dad's mom. He was just like, he just kind of accepted everybody, right? Yeah, do this, do that. And I know you had a great relationship with Roland just because I think it was because you loved the pedals and you weren't afraid to say it. And there was all, right, there were all the haters, the Euro invasion of mountain bike. But those pedals were, I equate them to, they were kind of like what the iMac did for Apple. They did that for time because the road pedal thing went like that, and then boom, it kind of dropped off.
Yeah.
And there were a couple years there where they were suffering, and they came out with that pedal, and it was like, that was a very interesting. I mean, it was that time, right?
Yeah.
It was the early to mid '90s there.
Yeah.
Maybe that was mid to late when the Attack finally came out, but
Mid.
Yeah.
So real quick, no one knows who Roland is, and you guys and Doug Knox. But my favorite Roland story. Here's this guy, French guy, really elegant, and just super kind. And I can't say much about him, but it's just my real quick story. He came one time and with Doug, and and so I said, okay, because my deal when industry people would come, I would take them to this one Mexican restaurant on Sunset Boulevard we used to go to called El Cholo. And it was awesome. It was the best Mexican restaurant, the best stinking margaritas. And my parents had been taking me there since I was like 12 years old, right? And it was just sweet. Like inside, it was real dark, but on the ceiling, they had always fluorescent painted sombreros upside down. And it was just like this. It was just great. Fabulous food, fabulous margaritas, and great salsa. So we go there with Doug Knox and Roland, and
What a crew.
yeah. And so, here's Roland. It wasn't a dive Mexican restaurant, but it wasn't, certainly nothing fancy. And it had this really flamboyant gay host who would always meet you. And, he had like his shirt unbuttoned here with all these gold chains. And he would just meet you and hug you. Like with my dad, he'd always do that. And he'd do this, kind of like the birdcage, if you ever saw that, with College of Fall.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So anyways, super sweet guy. And we go in there. And so, I'm sure Roland's like, what have I got myself into,
Yeah.
And so margaritas show up, the chips, the salsa. I'm like, Roland, welcome to El Cholo, Mexican food. Dig deep in that bowl of sweetness right there, baby. And he takes a chip, like this, whatever, and just digs deep, doesn't shake it off like you kind of like even I would, just right in his mouth. And next thing
Just hot.
just the French sweat pouring out, and I'm just falling apart in his seat, And I was just like sitting there, I was like, that is sweet. It was good. So like Roland, he was a great, a good man. I think he was an honest man, and he just had a passion for the bicycles, and I think that should always be respected on. And now in my later stages of life, it's been an ongoing thing, but especially now as I'm getting older, like I say, every day I wake up, that day, the moment my eyes open, this could be the best day from that point forward, right? Because you never know, eh?
Yeah.
And so I'm big on just like verbally giving tribute to people that had an impact that are no longer with us, because I think legacy is so important, for people. I've been talking about this with Rick Sutton. There's so much has happened in this industry, in the world, but let's just look in this industry whose shoulders we've stood upon one way or another, and those people whose shoulders we have stood on collectively, no one knows about them,
Yeah.
And so for Roland, remember you. That's all.
Yeah.
Well,
I went on the curve for Roland. That's right.
I'm touched by you sharing that because little caveat, Doug Knox inspired the three of us. He was our coach. He signed our independent study PE permission slips.
I even forged his signature a few times when I couldn't get over there.
He taught me how to run my bike shop and how to pay the bills, taught me a lot. And someday we'll have him a guest. We were calling him Evil Yoda or Dark Yoda. Bad Yoda. He's a good voice and a bad voice on your shoulder.
Yeah. I think Doug's. He just, I mean, if you look at the word cyclist in the dictionary, you're not going to see his picture. No. He is, look up the word dweeb in the dictionary, and here, Ball's got those glasses and always enthusiastic. And you guys know him. I mean, I just know him from being the media guy and stuff, but he was awesome.
Yeah.
And again, just the passion for what we're doing.
Yeah. Also, not afraid to give his opinion.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, definitely not afraid to say.
That's the bad part of Yoda.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Not always.
Yeah.
No, that was
he was always. I know that was one of the reasons Roland always liked him around. He's like, he might be aggravating sometimes, but I always know he's going to tell me straight. Yeah. So
tell it straight, because there aren't too many people like that. Right?
Well, the passion that we stand on these other shoulders that came before us. That's a touching, nice thing. One last question for you. You got these guys have any stories about you, Zap? These guys being Kurt and Darren?
Zap stories, yeah. Zap always
Let's
had
not turn this into
an amazing sneaker collection. Like I always, right? It's like a yellow Samba there, huh?
Absolutely.
Is that what that is? Yeah.
So another tribute, Al Van Ooy was a guy who worked at Adidas, and he was like a top, like in the future design. He ran Adidas design, and I met him in Moab with Bob Roll like in 1993 one time, and didn't think much about him at all. He was like, "Oh yeah, you're Zap," and he was, and he saw Buka, and he was just like enthralled with that, And I guess we sort of kept in touch here and there, and then I don't know how it got serious, but I mean, I guess at one day I found out he was into motorcycles and motocross specifically, and he came to LA one time, and I told him like, hey, if you're gonna come to LA, and you want to see things, you got to go to Troy Lee's, the headquarters in Corona, and he's like, oh really? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, just go there because it's Troy Lee at the shop still HQ, just this bitchin' museum of everything, So Alba and I went there and visited Troy. They became fast friends. Adidas became a co-sponsor for this Troy Lee's motocross team, and Al was just so bitching, like all people were talking about, bitching, motocross guy, and just such a sweetheart. And cancer fucking took him off, a few years ago, and so now again, same thing. I only wear Adidas shoes ever. I'll never be found in anything but an Adidas shoe, and every single time it's because Al Van Ooy. I keep him alive in my mind because he was just a good person. So yeah,
That's a great story.
I would say if I had any, I can't think of like a specific like one Zap story, but the thing that I always remember about Zap is one, he always had was on it, always had energy, a lot of people you're racing a circuit or you're involved in the industry or whatever. Zap was always showing up, and always just had good energy, was on the gas, ready to go, ready to talk about something. And then also, you were probably one of the first people I remember reading in the mountain bike industry that I read, some editorial stuff you wrote, and I was like, whoa, that was different. In a good way.
Yeah.
Most people weren't willing to kind of get out there and really give an opinion or throw it out there. And you were somebody that did that. So I always respect that because it's just easy to hop in with all the other salmon and go the same way. But
we all have our personalities, again, Blumenthal, and be great. He's a great rider, and I mean, he was a bicycle guy far more than I will ever be, But I mean, I've always attacked this, as my sport, my profession. I mean, I made a thing back in the day, it's I will be the first editor in the pits at an Urban National, and I'll be the last one to leave, And I'm just competitive in that sense, and I see these other guys walking around, editors, fucking barefoot, like, where's happy hour, let's go get when's it Interbike especially, and I would just cringe, it's it's not, it's just I just always wanted to beat guys, and I mean, I put Mountain Bike Action to be number one, and then Mountain Bike Magazine was number one, and my daughter, she makes fun of me about this stuff, but it's just I think right now I feel so animated because I just love it, love it, and I can't stop loving it, and I want to keep loving it again till that day one comes when my eyes won't open, and it's because it's being at Sea Otter, it's it used to be a bike race, and I remember when I was at Trek, I was telling them about the importance of being at this event, and I said, it's not a bike race. It's an outdoor life family experience, and you just can't come away any more in love with bicycles and bicycle people than to stand out there and see, it's I was telling someone today, the best thing in Sea Otter is seeing these kids on the BMX bike wheeling through, the aisles, they're totally crowded out, and they don't even care. And it's so bitchin', these little teeny, a 3-year-old girl on a little BMX bike with a helmet pedaling along, and this big overweight lady, pushing her bike along, and had a big step through frame, she's riding a fucking bicycle, and it's just and then the racers, I'm a race guy, always been a race guy. That's been the big deal, right? Just racing. And so, racers, these guys, it's just the level of dedication and passion, and it's so hard. And when you watch the Tour de France, and it just blows my mind. I mean, what else in this world is that stinking hard, and they pick themselves up and keep, how many times you see, they fall down, they're all skin and blood and like that. I'll be watching, race with my girlfriend, and then they get on their bike, broken clavicle, and they can still go to the finish, they go
to the finish and then get checked out by the doctor because you got to finish, right?
And you show up the next day 9 times out of 10, so it's just there's a sense of bravado and bicycles and motorcycles, but it's just there's something about, because it goes back to your question, like, what is about two wheels, and it's just like nothing excites me like two wheels.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
So that gives me one more Zap story, and it's not something that I experienced, but a story that you told. And I remember, and you can tell me if I got it right, but you were at the Tour de France during the Armstrong heyday, and I think he had like, it might have been at sign-in, and he went up on the stage, and all the photogs are there, all the Euros, right? And then the Mexican from Southern California is there. And I think you told it like that, and you're like, yeah, I'm up there, and you see Julien de Vries come by, Lance's mechanic, and he had grabbed the bike from where he had gone up and like moved it to somewhere else. So you said you saw that, and you went over to where the bike was, because you're like, this is where the dude's going to come down, because you were like in the scrum, like those guys were kind of beating your ass in the scrum, the photo scrum. So you went over there, and you were the first guy there when he came down. Do I have that one right? Do you remember that one? No.
Can I tell you my favorite Lance story?
Please. Yeah.
So when I was at Mountain Bike Magazine, and there's always talk about Lance coming to race mountain bikes, and they were going to, he wasn't because he won the Tour, and that was part of his deal with Trek and Volkswagen. If you won the Tour, you have to do a mountain bike race, and it was actually Paul Rowney was here. If you remember Paul Rowney,
Yeah.
and because the NBC came, that's a whole other story, eh? But before that, like there was always talk about Lance going to the Olympics and on the mountain bike team, and the USA Cycling was going to save money instead of hiring some know-nothing mountain bike racer like Don Myra or Hootink or whatever. Let's put Lance on the mountain bike team, and I was like the full mountain bike partisan, and I'm like, fuck that guy, It's like he needs to come and qualify like everybody else. There's no automatic seed for this is the Olympics, and all these racers, Travis Brown especially, racing their hearts out to get a slot, and we're just going to give it to him. So I did this. I started singing a little campaign, and it was called Dump Lance, and I wrote a column in Mountain Bike Magazine, Dump Lance, and I was going to get I wanted to get T-shirts made, and we could wear them in an Urban National with Dump Lance on it, and it was just, it was just being silly, really,
Right.
And of course, then the guys at Rodeo are like, because bicycling was our sister zine, and they're like, no way, we're going to do any such thing. And Greg, who was the art director of the magazine, famously and thankfully, he made a shirt up and said it said Dump Lance 2000 Olympics, Anyways, at the Tour de France that year, I got to go over there with Trek. Trek took me to go over there, and Dick Moran, who was the boss, who would later become my boss when I was at Trek. We were at Alpe d'Huez, and he would have a cocktail in his hands, But he told me the story. He said, "Yeah, so bitching." He sees Lance, and Lance comes up and says, "What's that fucking Mexican doing here?" And I was like, "Yeah!" It's like I got, at the Alpe d'Huez, the Tour de France. I'm like, I got that smidgen of Lance's brain going on, And so then at that Mount Snow race, I'm talking to Scotty Dobert, who was a team mechanic for Trek Volkswagen, and I've known Scotty for years. So we're talking, and unbeknownst to Scotty at the time, I took a Mountain Bike Magazine sticker and I put it on Lance's number plate, and then we're just kind of hanging out talking, and then lo and behold, who rides up but Lance Armstrong? And I'm just like, oh man, like I typical chicken shit, right? I can fling it up, but man, I hate to have to be confronted about it, right? And so I'm thinking like, and Scott's like, just like, don't worry. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be so bad. And Lance rides up, and Scott says, like, hey Lance, because he would go pre-ride the course with Scotty, and he goes, I say, hey, this is Zap, and he goes, yeah, hey Zap, and I'm like, hey Lance, and he said, no hard feelings, and then later that year at Oakley, he came to Oakley and was signing posters, and I stood in line like everybody else when I got up there, and he's just laughing, and he goes, what do you want me to write? And I went, dump Zap, and so he did that, and also, Lance is Lance, and it's a whole story, and I just want to say, for the sake of, like history, there was a training camp in Arizona that I went to, and that town south of Scottsdale, where's it, Lemon Hill or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
and so at the time my wife was ill, and so I'm at the camp just going about the business, blah 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 blah, and then it's like, oh man, I gotta hit to the airport, and got the rental car and everything, and I just took off. I'm leaving. And then the phone rings, and I can't remember who it was, but basically they said, hey, Lance, because of course this was Livestrong was going on. Lance wants to see you, and I'm just like, okay, screw the airplane. So I turned around, went back to the camp, and went, and he asked me about my wife and this, that, and the other. We talked a little bit, and then that night he did a message for my wife. Sorry, and that's all right. And anyways, he just said, hey, like good luck to Ronette, or something like that, and I just remember I was able to tell her that, and she said, God, he did that for me, and then so we can all have our opinions about Lance, and I think Lance is a jerk, and I think Lance is bitching despite all that stuff. And I just, it's just for the record, Lance did me right with that. And then he put, he put stickers on the team bikes. So if you go to Mellow Johnny's now, it's a TT bike that he rode, and it said, I ride for Ronette. And so I just want to be, I'm slagging on him, and I can't do that without at the same time just saying, you know what, he was kind to me and my wife at a time when we both needed that, and especially my wife. And so anyways, thanks, Lance.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your bohawk intent, your bohawk intensity. Just trying to round this out. Your bohawk intensity, but your work ethic to work past those reps with their shoes off that want to go party. Like you work till the end of the day. So you're here at the end of the day in the hot box with us. It's not too hot. We've got technology venting us, but you came to sit down and podcast episode 28 with three amigos, and we don't even.
Well, I don't know about you, but it's an honor with these guys because just look, like a few months ago, out of nowhere, Rick Johnson and Jeff Ward, two superheroes, and they have a podcast, and so it's like Ricky RJ, just like he's like, hey Zach, you want to be on our podcast? And so this is not that great because between those two guys, but it's an honor between these two guys, honestly, because these guys are legacy road gurus and mountain bike guys. And the fact they even asked me, it's an honor, So I'm just like, yeah, of course, I wouldn't turn these guys down because we have history, but it's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's important to understand. It was nice that you brought up their mom and the motorcycle legacy that these guys kind of, it all intertwines, and you painted that picture today, and it was a real pleasure to have you on. Is there anything you want to mention to our audience that you're up to, that you're dreaming about, that you're looking forward to in the next 20 years or 5 years?
I'm looking forward to rebuilding my house after the Eaton fire.
Yeah.
But no, it's just like, everybody be good, and, just cherish every moment, and, ride your bikes and have fun.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Right.